At 62 years old, I just sold the construction company I'd spent 35 years building from nothing. $12 million. It was more money than I'd ever dreamed of as a kid, growing up in a 2-bedroom apartment in Queens. The plan was simple: retire, spend time with my grandkids, travel to all the places my late wife Linda and I had circled in travel magazines, but never had time to visit. Then, on a Friday afternoon, my lawyer called. His voice was tight, urgent. "James, it's about your son, Michael. Don't sign anything. Don't transfer any money. We need to talk. Now." What he told me in the next 10 minutes didn't just shatter my retirement dreams. It shattered everything I thought I knew about my own son. Before I continue this story, please let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. And be sure to subscribe to the channel if you believe that family loyalty should never be taken for granted. The smell of sawdust still clung to my work boots, even though I hadn't set foot on a construction site in 3 months. Old habits. I was standing in my bedroom, packing for a fishing trip with some buddies from the old crew, when my phone rang. Robert Hayes, my attorney for 30 years, my friend for even longer. I almost didn't answer. Robert knew I was heading out of town. This had to be important. "Robert, what's going on? Everything okay?" His voice came through the line like gravel, controlled, but barely. "James, are you alone?" That question made my stomach drop. "Yeah, I'm home. What's wrong?" "I need you to sit down," he said. I sank onto the edge of the bed, the duffel bag sliding off my lap onto the floor. My wife Linda's photograph sat on the nightstand, her smile frozen in time from our anniversary trip to Maine. 3 years she'd been gone. 3 years since cancer had stolen her from me, from our boys, from our grandkids. "Robert, you're scaring me. I've been doing the estate planning review you asked for," he began. "Part of that process involves verifying all your assets, getting updated statements from your investment accounts, your retirement funds, everything." "Right. I remember. You said you'd need a few weeks to—" "James," he interrupted, his voice dropping. "The numbers don't match." "What do you mean?" "The quarterly reports Michael has been sending you, the investment summaries, the portfolio updates." He paused. "James, they're fabrications. They're doctored PDFs. The real statements from the actual financial institutions tell a very different story." The room tilted. I gripped the edge of the bed. That's not possible. Michael's been managing those accounts for 18 months. Ever since the company sale, he sends me detailed reports every quarter. The returns have been solid, 7–8% annually. "James," Robert's voice was gentle now, the way you'd speak to someone at a funeral. "There are no returns. The accounts have been systematically drained. Your son has been stealing from you." I couldn't breathe. The words didn't make sense. They were English. I understood each one individually, but strung together, they formed an impossible sentence. "How much?" I whispered. Robert took a breath. "When you sold Peterson Construction, you cleared $12 million after taxes. You put $4 million into managed investment accounts that Michael said he'd oversee. According to the real statements I obtained directly from the banks, those accounts currently hold approximately $400,000. $400,000, I repeated numbly. Out of $4 million. That's $3.6 million that's vanished over the past 18 months. Robert confirmed. "And that's not all. Do you remember the $2.5 million you invested in Michael's real estate development projects?" "Of course. He said they were going to be huge. Mixed-use developments, luxury condos." "James, there are no developments. There are no legal partnership agreements, no contracts, no paperwork. I've searched every county record. The companies he told you he created don't exist. The $2.5 million is gone." The numbers were adding up in my head, each one a hammer blow. $6.1 million, I said. "Over half of everything I worked for is just Gone? There's one more thing, Robert said, and his voice cracked for the first time. The power of attorney you signed when Linda was sick, the one that let Michael handle things when you were focused on her care. I remember. I needed it. I was at the hospital 20 hours a day. I couldn't manage the business, and you never revoked it, James. After Linda passed, you were grieving, and the document stayed active. Michael has had legal access to your accounts this whole time. He's been using it to move money without your active knowledge or consent. Every investment you think you authorized, every opportunity he presented to you, he had the power to execute them without your signature. I stood up, my legs unsteady. I walked to the window, looking out at the quiet street. My son lived 4 miles from here, in a house 3 times the size of mine, a house I'd helped him buy. His kids went to private school. His wife drove a Range Rover. Every Sunday, we had family dinner. Every week, he'd hug me, call me Dad, tell me he loved me. Michael, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. My son, Michael. I'm so sorry, James, Robert said, but you need to listen to me very carefully. You cannot let him know that you know. Do you understand? You cannot confront him. If he suspects we're onto him, he could move what's left, destroy evidence, flee. We need time. I need to bring in a forensic accountant. We need to map out exactly where the money went and build an airtight case. I closed my eyes. 3 years ago, Michael had stood at his mother's funeral and given a eulogy that made grown men cry. He'd talked about how she'd taught him integrity, honesty, the value of hard work. He'd promised, his voice breaking, that he would take care of me the way she would have wanted. Was that all a lie? Was he already planning this even then? What do? I asked. You go on your fishing trip, Robert said. You act normal. You call Michael like you always do. And Monday morning, you come to my office. We're going to war, James. But he doesn't know it yet. And that's our only advantage. I hung up the phone and stood there in the silence of my bedroom. The duffel bag lay on the floor, half packed. Linda's photograph smiled at me from the nightstand. And somewhere, 4 miles away, my son was probably sitting down to dinner with his family, my grandchildren, living in a house bought with stolen money. The fishing trip was a blur. I sat in a boat with 3 guys I'd known for 40 years, men who'd worked beside me, framing houses and pouring foundations, and I couldn't hear a word they said. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart stopped. Saturday afternoon, it was Michael. Hey, Dad, just checking in. You having fun on the trip? Miss you. Love you. I stared at those words. Love you. I forced my fingers to type a response. Great time. Fish are biting. See you for dinner next week. The lies came easier than I expected. Maybe I'd learned from the master. Monday morning, I walked into Robert's office at 8 a.m. sharp. He wasn't alone. James, Robert said, gesturing to the 2 people sitting in his conference room. This is Patricia Chen, forensic accountant, and this is Detective Marcus Webb from the Financial Crimes Division. Patricia was in her 40s, with sharp eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses and an intensity that made me feel like she could see through walls. Detective Webb was younger, maybe early 30s, with the kind of calm presence that came from seeing the worst of human nature and not being surprised by it anymore. Mr. Peterson, Patricia said, shaking my hand firmly, I've spent the weekend doing a preliminary analysis of your accounts. What your son has done is sophisticated. This isn't amateur hour. He's been careful, methodical, but he's left a trail, and I'm going to follow it. How bad is it? I asked, sinking into a chair. She opened a laptop and turned it toward me. The screen showed a web of arrows and boxes, a complex flowchart that looked like a conspiracy theorist's dream. Your son created a network of shell companies, she explained, her finger tracing the lines. Peterson Development Holdings LLC, Summit Ridge Investments, Clearwater Properties Trust. You're listed as the owner or partner in all of them. I've never heard of any of those companies. I know, because you didn't create them. He did, using forged signatures on the incorporation documents. He's been funneling your money through these entities, then into his personal accounts, his business ventures, and his lifestyle. She clicked to another screen. Photographs. A Range Rover gleaming in a driveway. A country club with manicured golf greens. Receipts from a jewelry store. A family vacation to Europe. Every major purchase your son has made in the past 18 months traces back to your accounts, Patricia said. The Range Rover your daughter-in-law drives, purchased with a $180,000 wire transfer from one of the shell companies. The country club membership, $85,000, paid from an account holding your money. Their European vacation last summer, charged to a credit card in your name that you didn't know existed. I felt sick. What about the grandkids' school? He said I was helping with tuition. You're not helping, she said bluntly. You're paying 100%, $42,000 a year for both kids, directly from your accounts. Detective Webb leaned forward. Mr. Peterson, I want to be straight with you. What we're looking at here is elder financial abuse. It's a felony. Given the amounts involved and the sophistication of the scheme, we're talking serious prison time if we can prove intent and pattern. If, I asked, we need more than account transfers, he explained. We need to prove he knew what he was doing was theft. We need to show a pattern of deception. We need motive, means, and opportunity. Right now, we have means and opportunity. I need the motive, and I need evidence of the deception. Robert spoke up, which is why, for the next few weeks, you're going to be an actor, James. The best actor of your life. You're going to call Michael, have lunch with him, let him believe everything is normal. While you do that, we're going to dig. And when we have everything we need, we're going to set a trap. I looked at the three of them, an attorney, an accountant, a detective, 3 people I didn't know well, preparing to go to war for me against my own son. What kind of trap? I asked. Robert smiled, but there was no warmth in it. The kind that makes criminals think they've won, right before the cage door slams shut. The next 2 weeks were the hardest of my life, harder than watching Linda fade away in that hospital bed, harder than standing at her graveside, because this was a different kind of death, the death of trust, of family, of the fundamental belief that your children will honor the sacrifices you made for them. I had lunch with Michael on a Wednesday. We met at his favorite steakhouse, the kind of place where the menu doesn't have prices and the wine list is bound in leather. He arrived looking like $1 million. Custom suit, expensive watch, perfect haircut. He hugged me, and I forced myself not to recoil. Dad, you look great, he said, all smiles. Retirement suits you. Feeling good, I lied. Thinking about taking a trip. Maybe that cruise to Alaska Linda and I always talked about. His eyes flickered, just for a second. Interest. Calculation. That sounds amazing, he said. You deserve it. You've worked so hard your whole life. The waiter came. Michael ordered a $200 bottle of wine, without blinking. I wondered if he'd charge it to one of my accounts. How are the developments going? I asked, playing my part. The Riverside project, the Summit Ridge one? Fantastic, he said smoothly. We're ahead of schedule on Riverside. Should break ground on the luxury towers next month. Your investment is going to pay off big, Dad. I'm talking 300% returns over 5 years. Every word was a lie. Patricia had already confirmed it. There was no Riverside project. There were no luxury towers. There was a piece of worthless swampland outside Denver that Michael had bought for pennies and told me was worth millions. That's great, son, I said, forcing a smile. I'm proud of you. Couldn't have done it without you, Dad. he said, raising his glass. To partners. I clinked my glass against his, the sound like a death knell. While I was playing the fool, Patricia was deep in the digital trenches. Her second report came via encrypted email on a Friday night. I sat at my kitchen table reading it, and with each page, the betrayal cut deeper. Linda's life insurance. The words on the screen blurred. I had to read them 3 times to believe what I was seeing. Linda had a $1.5 million life insurance policy. I knew about it. We'd taken it out together 20 years ago. The beneficiary was supposed to be me. The plan was that if anything happened to her, I'd use it to pay off the house, set up college funds for the grandkids, and live comfortably. But according to Patricia's findings, there was a beneficiary change form filed 1 week before Linda died. The beneficiary had been changed to Michael. I stared at the scanned document. There was Linda's signature at the bottom, except it wasn't her signature. Her handwriting had been elegant, flowing. This signature was shaky, uncertain, the signature of someone too weak to hold a pen, or the signature of someone trying to forge her handwriting while she lay dying in a hospital bed, too drugged on morphine to sign anything herself. No, I whispered to the empty room. No, no, no. But the records didn't lie. Michael had filed the change of beneficiary. Michael had received the $1.5 million payout, and Michael had never told me about it. I remembered that time, the last weeks of Linda's life. I was at the hospital constantly, holding her hand, reading to her, telling her I loved her. Michael was there too, being the dutiful son, bringing flowers, talking to doctors, handling paperwork, the medical bills. Another memory surfaced, sharp as broken glass. After Linda died, Michael had sat me down in my kitchen. He'd been somber, sympathetic. Dad, he'd said, I've been going through Mom's medical bills. The insurance covered a lot, but there's still about $200 outstanding. The hospital is pressing for payment. I'd been numb with grief. I hadn't questioned it. I'd written him a check for $200,000 to settle Mom's medical expenses. Patricia's report confirmed what I now suspected. There were no outstanding medical bills. The insurance had covered everything. The hospital confirmed it in writing. Michael had pocketed my $200,000 on top of the $1.5 million life insurance he'd stolen. He'd profited $1.7 million from his own mother's death, and he'd started by forging her signature while she was dying. I stood up from the table, so fast, my chair fell backward. I made it to the bathroom just in time to be sick. When I could breathe again, I sat on the bathroom floor, my back against the cold tile, and I cried. Not the quiet, dignified tears I'd shed at Linda's funeral. These were the broken, ugly sobs of a man who'd just realized his son had turned his wife's deathbed into a crime scene. The phone rang. I ignored it. It rang again. Finally, I pulled it from my pocket. Robert, did you see Patricia's report? He asked gently. I saw it, I managed. James, I'm so sorry, but there's more, and you need to hear it all. More? I laughed. A hollow sound. What more could there possibly be? Your house, Robert said. Patricia found an attempted home equity loan application. Michael tried to borrow $500,000 against your house using the power of attorney. The only reason it didn't go through is because the bank required an in-person signature. My house, the house Linda and I had bought 40 years ago, the house where we'd raised our boys, the house where every room held memories. He'd tried to mortgage it without telling me. When? I asked. 4 months ago. The bank declined it, and he apparently didn't try again. But James, he told the loan officer that you were becoming forgetful and that he was handling all your financial affairs because you couldn't be trusted to manage them yourself. The pieces were clicking into place. The concerned calls, the gentle suggestions that I was getting older and should let him handle the complicated stuff. The way he'd positioned himself as the responsible son, taking care of his aging father. He wasn't preparing to help me. He was preparing to replace me. "There's one more thing," Robert said, his voice hard. Detective Webb got a warrant for Michael's phone records. There was a deleted voicemail that the phone company recovered. It was left for one of his business partners. "I'm going to play it for you. Are you ready?" "I don't think I'll ever be ready," I said. Robert played the audio. Michael's voice filled my bathroom, echoing off the tile. "Hey, it's me. Listen, don't worry about the Peterson deal. The old man has no idea what's happening. He's so lost without Mom. He signs whatever I put in front of him. Honestly, it's almost too easy. Another year, maybe 18 months, and I'll have liquidated everything. Then, we can let the development deals collapse, file bankruptcy on the LLCs, and he'll never see a dime. By the time he figures out what happened, he'll be too old and senile to do anything about it. It's the perfect setup." Laughter. My son's laughter. "Trust me, this is foolproof. Talk soon." The recording ended. I sat there on my bathroom floor, my phone pressed to my ear, listening to silence. "James." Robert's voice was distant. "Are you there?" "I'm here," I whispered. "We have him," Robert said. "This is premeditated, calculated theft. This is conspiracy. This is fraud on a massive scale. Detective Webb says this is enough for an arrest warrant. We can end this right now." "No," I said. "What?" I stood up, my legs steadier than I expected. I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror. The man staring back at me had aged 10 years, in 2 weeks. But his eyes were clear. "Not yet," I said. "You said we need to set a trap. Let's set it. I want him to know what's coming. I want him to see it. I want him to understand that the man he thought was too old and senile outsmarted him." "James, set the trap, Robert. I'll make the call." I hung up and walked back to the kitchen. I picked up my phone and dialed Michael's number. He answered on the second ring. "Dad, hey, I was just thinking about you. How are you doing?" The performance. Always the performance. "Michael," I said, my voice warm, trusting. "I need your advice on something. You got time to talk?" "For you? Always. What's on your mind?" "I've been thinking about the future," I said. "About what happens to all this money when I'm gone. The house, the investments, everything. I want to make sure it's handled right, that the boys are taken care of, that the grandkids have what they need. Dad, you don't need to worry about that. You're healthy. You've got years ahead of you. I know. But Linda's death taught me that tomorrow isn't guaranteed. I've been talking to a financial advisor, and he suggested I set up a family trust, put everything into it now, while I'm still around, so there's no probate mess when I'm gone." Silence on the other end. I could almost hear the gears turning. "A trust," Michael said carefully. That's actually smart thinking, Dad. Here's the thing," I continued. "I want you to be the trustee. You've been so good at managing my investments, so responsible. I trust you completely. I'm thinking of putting the remaining assets, maybe $6 million, plus the house, everything, into an irrevocable trust with you as the controlling trustee." More silence. Then his voice came back, warm and eager. "Dad, that's incredibly generous. Are you sure? That's a big responsibility." "I'm sure," I said. "You're my son. Who else would I trust?" "When were you thinking of doing this?" "Soon," I said. "Maybe next week. Robert Hayes can draft the documents. I thought you, me, maybe Rachel, if you want her there, we could all meet at Robert's office and sign everything. Make it official. Next week," Michael repeated. Yeah, that works for me. Dad, this is really the best decision you could make. For the family, for everyone." "I thought so too," I said. "I'll call Robert tomorrow and set it up. Tuesday afternoon work for you?" "Tuesday's perfect." "Great. I love you, son." A pause. Then, I love you too, Dad. I hung up and set the phone on the table. The bait was set. The trap was ready. And in 5 days, my son would walk right into it. Tuesday arrived under gray skies that threatened rain. I dressed carefully that morning. A dark suit, the one I'd worn to Linda's funeral. It felt appropriate somehow. Robert's office was in a high-rise downtown, all glass and steel, and the kind of quiet money that doesn't need to announce itself. I arrived an hour early. The conference room had been transformed. The long mahogany table was polished to a mirror shine. At one end sat 6 blue folders, arranged with military precision. A large screen had been mounted on the wall. Video cameras were positioned discreetly in the corners. Robert was there, along with Patricia and Detective Webb. But there were 2 other people I hadn't met. James, Robert said. This is Assistant District Attorney Jennifer Morrison. She'll be observing. And this is Dr. Catherine Hayes from the DA's Forensic Document Division. She analyzed the signature on Linda's life insurance form. They shook my hand with the somber respect usually reserved for wakes. Mr. Peterson, the IDA said, I want you to know that what your son did constitutes multiple felonies. When this meeting is over, Detective Webb will place him under arrest. There will be charges. This will be public. Are you prepared for that? I thought about Linda, about the forged signature, about the voicemail where he'd laughed about my grief. I'm prepared, I said. At 2:00 p.m. exactly, the receptionist called. Mr. Hayes, your appointment is here. Send them in, Robert said. The door opened. Michael walked in, and behind him was Rachel, his wife. She looked nervous, uncertain. Michael looked confident, almost eager. He was wearing a suit that probably cost $3,000. My money bought that suit. Dad, Michael crossed the room and hugged me. I stood stiff, enduring it. Robert, good to see you. Rachel gave me a small, uncomfortable smile. Hi, James. Have a seat, Robert said, gesturing to the chairs across from us. They sat. Michael placed a leather portfolio on the table. I brought some documents my attorney drafted, he said. Just some additional paperwork to make sure the trust is structured optimally for tax purposes. Always thinking ahead, always planning. Before we get to that, Robert said, his voice professionally neutral. There are some discrepancies in the financial records that need to be addressed. Michael's smile didn't waver. Discrepancies? What kind of discrepancies? Robert opened the first folder. He slid a document reports you've been sending to your father over the past 18 months. Right. The portfolio summaries. What about them? Robert slid another document across. And these are the actual statements from the financial institutions, real account data, obtained directly from the banks. Michael picked up the paper. His eyes scanned it. I watched his face. The confidence flickered, just for a second. I don't understand, he said. There must be some kind of mistake. There's no mistake. Patricia spoke for the first time. The reports you sent your father showing healthy returns and stable balances are fabrications. They're PDFs you created and doctored. The real accounts tell a different story. She stood and activated the screen behind her. A spreadsheet appeared, color-coded and damning. $4 million placed in managed accounts 18 months ago. Current balance, $400,000. That's $3.6 million missing. Michael's jaw tightened. Those were high-risk investments. The market has been up 12% over that period. Patricia interrupted. And these weren't high-risk investments. They were systematic withdrawals directly into accounts you control. Rachel turned to look at her husband. Michael, what is she talking about? He didn't answer her. He was staring at the screen. Robert opened the second folder. Shell companies, he said, sliding documents across the table. Peterson Development Holdings, Summit Ridge Investments, Clearwater Properties Trust. Your father is listed as owner or partner in all of them. Corporate documents filed with the state, bearing his signature. He placed 3 more documents down, side by side, signatures. Except these aren't your father's signatures, Robert said. They're forgeries. Expert analysis confirms it. Michael's hand clenched on the table. This is ridiculous. Why would I forge? Because these companies were vehicles, Patricia said, her voice clinical and cold. Vehicles to funnel your father's money into your personal accounts and your failing business ventures. She clicked to the next slide. Photographs filled the screen. Michael's Range Rover, the country club, receipts from luxury retailers, European vacation photos. Every major purchase you've made in 18 months traces back to your father's stolen funds, Patricia said. The car, the club membership, the private school tuition you claim to be splitting with him. He's paying 100%. The European vacation, all of it, purchased with money taken from accounts you had no right to access. Rachel's face had gone white. Michael, is this true? He ignored her, his eyes fixed on Patricia. I was managing his investments. He gave me power of attorney. Everything I did was legal. The power of attorney was granted for a specific purpose, Robert said, his voice sharp. To help manage affairs during your mother's illness. It was never intended as blanket authorization to loot his accounts. Michael stood up abruptly. This is insane. Dad, you know me. You know I would never. Sit down, Michael, I said. My voice cut through the room like a blade. It was the voice I'd used on construction sites. The voice that had commanded crews of 50 men. The voice I hadn't used in years. Michael sat. Robert opened the 3rd folder. This one he handled with something like reverence. Your mother's life insurance policy, he said softly. I watched Michael's face. The blood drained from it. Original beneficiary, James Peterson. Filed 20 years ago when the policy was taken out. Robert placed the document on the table. Beneficiary change form, filed 1 week before Linda Peterson's death. New beneficiary, Michael Peterson. He placed another document down. A signature analysis report. The signature, purporting to be Linda Peterson's, is a forgery, Robert stated. Your mother was unconscious, on morphine, unable to sign her own name. You forged it. You changed the beneficiary to yourself, and you collected $1.5 million that should have gone to your father. Rachel made a sound, a small, broken gasp. And then, Robert continued, relentless, you told your father that your mother's medical bills exceeded the insurance coverage. You asked him for $200,000 to cover non-existent hospital debt, which he paid. So you profited $1.7 million from your mother's death. That's not, Michael started. We have hospital records, Patricia said. We have insurance company statements. There were 0 outstanding medical bills. You lied to your grieving father and stole another $200,000 from him. Robert opened the 4th folder. Your attempted home equity loan, he said. You tried to borrow $500,000 against your father's house without his knowledge. The bank declined because they required in-person signature. But you told the loan officer, and I quote, that your father was becoming forgetful and couldn't be trusted to manage his own affairs. Rachel was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face. She was staring at Michael like he was a stranger. Robert opened the 5th folder, the real estate developments. The projects your father invested $2.5 million in. Patricia, would you like to explain? Patricia pulled up images on the screen. Swampland. Literally, waterlogged, worthless acres of nothing. There are no luxury developments, she said. There never were. You purchased worthless land for pennies and convinced your father it was prime real estate. The $2.5 million he invested went directly into your personal accounts. There are no partnership agreements, no contracts, no legal business entities. It was a complete fabrication. The room was silent, except for Rachel's quiet sobbing. And finally, Robert said, his voice dropping low. We have this. He pressed play on an audio file. Michael's voice filled the room. That voicemail, every damning word of it. The old man has no idea. So lost without mom. Signs whatever I put in front of him. Too old and senile to do anything. It's the perfect setup. His laughter echoed through the conference room. When it ended, the silence was absolute. Rachel stood up, her chair scraping loudly. She backed away from Michael, her hand over her mouth, shaking her head. You told me, she whispered. You told me that money was from your projects. You said your father was gifting us money because he wanted to help with the grandkids. You said, Rachel, sit down, Michael said. You used me, she said, her voice rising. You used our children. You used your dying mother. What kind of monster? Shut up, Michael snapped. And for the first time, the mask fell away completely. The charming son was gone. What was left was ugly and desperate. He turned to me, his eyes wild. Dad, please, let me explain. The projects failed. I panicked. I was trying to make it back before you noticed. You forged your mother's signature, I said, my voice steady, despite the tears running down my face. While she was dying, while I held her hand and told her I loved her, you were in her hospital room, stealing from her. I didn't mean. You called me senile, I continued. You laughed about it. You planned to take everything and let me rot in a nursing home when I figured it out. I was going to pay it back. You stole $5.6 million from me, I said. You stole your mother's last gift to her grandchildren. You built your entire life on the ruins of our trust. Detective Webb stood. He pulled out his badge. Michael Peterson, he said, his voice formal. You're under arrest for elder financial abuse, fraud, forgery, and embezzlement. He read the Miranda rights while Michael sat frozen, his face gray. The handcuffs clicked into place. Rachel was still backing away, shaking her head, tears streaming. I didn't know, she kept saying. I swear to God, I didn't know. Mrs. Peterson, the ADA said gently, we believe you. You're not being charged, but you'll need to cooperate with the investigation. They led Michael toward the door. As he passed me, he stopped. Dad, he whispered, I'm your son. I looked at him, really looked at him, and I didn't see my son anymore. I saw a stranger who happened to share my DNA. My son died in his mother's hospital room, I said quietly, the moment he forged her signature. I don't know who you are. They took him away. I sat in that conference room for a long time after everyone left. Just me and Robert. You did the right thing, he said finally. Did I? I asked. He's still my son, Robert. My boy. The kid I taught to ride a bike. The kid I walked to his first day of school. That boy grew into a man who stole from his dying mother, Robert said gently. You can grieve for who he was, while still holding him accountable for who he became. Will we get any of it back? Some. Patricia's already identified assets we can liquidate. The house, the cars, jewelry, maybe $1.8 million recovered. The rest is gone, spent, gambled, lost in his failed ventures. And prison? 12 to 18 years, most likely. With his cooperation and a guilty plea, maybe less. But James, he's going to prison. That's certain. I nodded. 12 years. My grandkids would be adults when he got out. They'd grow up visiting their father in prison. What about Emma and Jack? I asked. Rachel is a good mother. She's already talking about changing their last name, moving away from Denver for a fresh start. But James, she wants them to know you. She said her children need to know their grandfather, that you're not responsible for their father's choices. Small comfort, but comfort nonetheless. 6 months later, I stood in a small community center in downtown Denver. The sign above the door read, The Linda Peterson Elder Protection Fund, Grand Opening. I'd used the recovered $1.8 million to establish the foundation. Its mission was simple: provide free legal aid to elderly people being financially abused by family members. The room was filled with about 50 people, elderly men and women who'd been referred by social services, by hospitals, by worried neighbors, people who discovered too late that their children, their caregivers, their trusted family members had been stealing from them. Patricia Chen was there, now the Foundation's Director of Investigations. Detective Webb had joined our board, and standing beside me was my younger son, Kevin. Kevin had been devastated when he learned what Michael had done. "I should have seen it," he'd said, crying in my living room. "I should have questioned why he always had so much money when his projects were supposedly just starting." But Kevin hadn't known. He'd been living his own life, teaching high school history in Boulder, raising his own family on a teacher's salary. He'd been the unsuccessful son, the one who didn't drive a luxury car or belong to country clubs. Now, he was the son standing beside me. "Dad," he said quietly as people filed into the room, "are you sure you're ready for this?" I looked at the faces. A woman in her 70s, clutching a folder of bank statements. A man in his 80s, leaning on a cane, his eyes hollow with betrayal. A middle-aged woman, helping her elderly mother to a seat. "I'm ready," I said. I walked to the front of the room. The conversations quieted. "My name is James Peterson," I began. 3 years ago, my wife Linda died of cancer. While I was grieving, my oldest son systematically stole over $5 million from me. He forged my wife's signature on her deathbed. He lied to me about medical bills. He created fake investment reports to hide the theft. And he planned to have me declared mentally incompetent when I got close to discovering the truth. The room was silent. I'm telling you this because I know what you're feeling right now. The shame, the disbelief, the voice in your head asking, "How could I have been so stupid?" But you weren't stupid. You trusted someone you loved, and they weaponized that trust against you. An elderly woman in the front row was crying softly. This foundation exists because of Linda, because the last thing she wanted was to protect our family, our future, our grandchildren. My son violated that. But I'm not going to let his betrayal be the end of her legacy. This foundation will provide you with free legal representation, free forensic accounting, free investigation services. We will help you get your money back. We will help you hold the people who hurt you accountable, and we will do it in Linda's name. I paused, looking around the room. You are not alone anymore. None of us are. After the presentation, people approached me one by one. They shared their stories. A daughter who'd drained her mother's retirement account, a grandson who'd forged a deed, a nephew who'd convinced his aunt to invest in a business that didn't exist. The same story, told 50 different ways. Family betrayal wrapped in loving concern. An elderly woman named Margaret approached last. She was maybe 75, well-dressed, but her eyes were haunted. "Mr. Peterson," she said softly, "my son did the same thing yours did. He took everything, my retirement, my savings, the money I'd set aside for my granddaughter's college. When I confronted him, he laughed. He said I'd given it to him freely, that I was too old to remember. I'm so sorry," I said. "I wanted to call the police," she continued, "but he's still my son, my baby. How do you reconcile that? Loving someone and destroying them at the same time?" I thought about that question, about Michael in handcuffs, about the grandchildren who would grow up knowing their father was in prison. "You don't reconcile it," I said finally. "You learn to hold two truths at the same time. I love my son. I also stopped him from destroying more lives. Both things are true. Both things will always hurt." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you," she whispered, "for showing us it's possible to survive this." That night, I drove to the cemetery. It was the first time I'd been there since the foundation opening. The first time I felt strong enough. Linda's headstone was simple. just her name, her dates, and a line from her favorite poem. Love is not love, which alters when it alteration finds. I sat on the grass beside her grave. I did it, I said to the stone. I used the money we saved together to help other people. Michael's in prison, 12 years. He pleaded guilty, didn't even fight it. I think maybe, somewhere deep down, he knew he deserved it. The evening breeze rustled through the trees. Kevin's been amazing. He and Sarah bring the kids over every Sunday. Emma and Jack, too. Rachel lets them visit. They're good kids, Linda. They're going to be okay. I set up protected trusts for all of them. Nobody can touch that money but them when they turn 25. I pulled a few weeds from around the base of the stone. I thought losing you was the worst thing that could ever happen to me. I was wrong. Watching our son become a stranger who would steal from your memory, that was worse. But fighting back, building something good from the wreckage, that's helping. The foundation's already helped 32 families in 6 months. I stood up, my knees creaking. I miss you every day. But I'm not the broken old man Michael thought he could exploit anymore. I'm not just surviving. I'm building again, just like I taught him to do all those years ago. Except I'm building something that actually helps people, not something built on lies. I placed my hand on the cool stone. Sleep well, love. Your legacy is safe. I made sure of that. 1 year later, I stood in the visiting room of the Colorado Correctional Facility. I hadn't been here since the trial, hadn't wanted to be, but Rachel had called me, her voice hesitant. James, Michael's been asking to see you. You don't have to go. God knows you don't owe him anything. But I thought you should know. He's different. Prison changed him. I don't know if it's real or another con, but he says he wants to apologize, face to face. I'd thought about it for 3 weeks. Finally, I'd called the prison and arranged a visit. Michael walked into the room wearing an orange jumpsuit. He'd lost weight. His expensive haircut was gone, replaced by a prison buzz cut. The confidence, the swagger, all of it had been stripped away. He sat down across from me, the table between us like a chasm. We looked at each other for a long moment. "Thank you for coming," he said finally. His voice was different, smaller. "I didn't think you would. I almost didn't. I wouldn't have blamed you." He looked down at his hands, shackled at the wrists. "Dad, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't deserve it. I just wanted to tell you that I know what I did. All of it. I've had a lot of time to think in here. Too much time." "Is this the part where you tell me you're sorry?" I asked, my voice flat. "No," he said, surprising me. "I mean, I am sorry, but saying it doesn't mean anything. Words are cheap. I used cheap words on you for years. I love you, Dad. I'll take care of you, Dad. All lies. So no, I'm not going to insult you with an apology you have no reason to believe." "Then why am I here, Michael?" He looked up, and I saw tears in his eyes. Real ones. Not the crocodile tears he'd used to manipulate me. "Because I wanted you to know that I understand what I destroyed. Mom's memory, your trust, Emma and Jack's childhood, Rachel's life, our family. I understand that I took a good man who'd worked his whole life and turned him into a victim. And I did it while he was grieving the woman he loved." He wiped his eyes with his shackled hands. "I'm sick, Dad. Not physically, but something's broken in me. The therapist here says I'm a narcissist, maybe a sociopath. I don't know if that's true, or if it's just an excuse. But I know that I looked at you crying at Mom's funeral, and I thought, this is my opportunity." The honesty was somehow worse than the lies had been. "I don't know if I can ever be fixed," he continued, "but I'm trying. I'm in therapy 5 days a week. I'm taking classes. I'm reading. I'm trying to understand how I became someone who could forge his dying mother's signature." "And," I asked, "what have you learned?" "That it started small," he said. Little lies, little shortcuts, telling myself I deserved more than what I'd earned. And each time I got away with it, the next lie got easier, until I couldn't tell the difference between what was mine and what I was stealing anymore. He looked at me directly. You didn't fail as a father. You were a good dad. You and Mom taught me right from wrong. I knew what I was doing was wrong. I just didn't care. And that's on me, not you. I sat back in my chair. Part of me wanted to rage at him. Part of me wanted to cry. Part of me wanted to walk out and never come back. The foundation, he said quietly. Rachel told me about it. The Linda Peterson Elder Protection Fund. That you've helped over 100 families. That you turned what I did into something good. I couldn't let your mother's memory end with theft. I'm glad, he said, and his voice cracked. I'm glad you built something good from what I destroyed. It doesn't fix what I did, but at least some good came from. We sat in silence for a moment. Emma and Jack, Michael said finally. Rachel showed me pictures. They're so big now. Emma's playing soccer. Jack's learning piano. They're good kids. Because of their mother. Because of you. He paused. Do they know what I did? Rachel told them the truth, that their father made very bad choices and has to face consequences. She didn't hide it from them, but she also didn't let them hate you. She said you were sick, that you needed help. She's a better person than I deserve. She is, I agreed. Michael looked at me, his eyes searching my face. I don't expect you to come back, he said. I know this is probably the last time I'll see you, but I wanted to say that I'm grateful, that you gave me life, that you taught me how to build things. And I'm sorry I used those lessons to tear you down instead. I stood up. The guard moved forward, ready to escort him back to his cell. Goodbye, Michael, I said. Goodbye, Dad. I walked out of that prison and didn't look back. 2 years after arrest, the foundation occupied an entire floor of a downtown office building now. We'd helped 347 families recover over $28 million in stolen assets. We'd sent 19 abusers to prison. We'd changed state laws around power of attorney protections. And every single person we helped got their case file in a blue folder with Linda's picture on the inside cover. A reminder that something good could come from something terrible. I was in my office when Kevin knocked on the door. Dad, there's someone here to see you. Says it's important. A young woman walked in. She was maybe 25, professional looking, carrying a briefcase. Mr. Peterson, my name is Sarah Martinez. You don't know me, but you saved my grandmother's life. I gestured for her to sit. 2 years ago, my grandmother came to your foundation. Her son, my uncle, had stolen her entire retirement. $400. She was going to lose her house. Your team helped her. You recovered the money, got a settlement, kept her home safe. I'm glad we could help, I said. She died last month, Sarah said, tears in her eyes, peacefully, in her own home, surrounded by family. And before she died, she told me what you'd said to her, that she wasn't stupid for trusting her son. That love isn't weakness. She opened her briefcase and pulled out an envelope. She left this for you. She made me promise to deliver it personally. I opened the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a handwritten letter. Dear James, you don't know me well, but you changed my life. When my son stole from me, I wanted to die. I thought my life was over, that I'd been a fool, that I deserved what happened for being too trusting. Then I met you, and you told me something I'll never forget. Your son didn't steal your money. He stole your dignity, but dignity can be reclaimed. Money is just numbers. Dignity is everything. You helped me reclaim it. You helped me stand up in court and tell the truth. You helped me get my home back. But more than that, you helped me understand that being a loving mother doesn't make me responsible for my son's choices. I'm dying now. Cancer, same as your Linda, but I'm dying in my own home, with my granddaughter holding my hand, and my dignity intact. That's because of you. Use the enclosed however you see fit for the foundation. It's not much, but it's all I have left to give. Keep fighting for people like us. Keep building your wife's legacy. With gratitude, Margaret Chen. I looked in the envelope. There was a check. $250,000. Her entire remaining estate. I couldn't speak. I just sat there, holding this letter from a woman I'd met once, who'd given everything she had left to continue the work. She wanted you to know, Sarah said softly, that you took something broken and made it beautiful again, not just for her, but for all of us. Present day, 3 years after Michael's arrest, I'm standing in my backyard, watching Emma and Jack play with Kevin's kids. Rachel is here too, sitting on the patio with Kevin's wife, Sarah. They've become friends, bonded by the shared experience of picking up pieces after Michael's explosion. Emma runs over to me, her soccer ball under her arm. Grandpa, will you play goalie? At 65, my knees aren't what they used to be, but I nod. 5 minutes. Then you're going easy on the old man. She laughs and runs back to the makeshift goal Kevin set up. I look at these kids. Emma will start high school next year. Jack is already talking about being an engineer like his grandpa. They're resilient. They're kind. They're nothing like their father. Rachel approaches, bringing me a glass of lemonade. Thank you for today, she says quietly, for having us over, for not shutting us out. You're family, I say simply. You didn't do anything wrong. Sometimes I feel like I should have known, should have seen the signs. He fooled all of us, I remind her. He was very good at it. The kids ask about him sometimes, she says. I tell them the truth, that their father made terrible choices and is facing consequences. But that doesn't mean they can't love him. That's the right approach. Do you love him? She asks suddenly. Still, I watch Emma kick the ball. Her form perfect, her laughter bright. I love the boy he was, I say finally. The child I raised. The son I thought I had. That person I love. The man he became. I don't know him, and I'm not sure I want to. She nods, understanding. The foundation is his legacy too, she says. In a strange way, he created the need for it, and now it's helping hundreds of people. That has to count for something. It counts for Linda, I say. It counts for people like Margaret, but it doesn't absolve him. It just means something good grew from something rotten. Jack runs over, out of breath. Grandpa, can you tell us the story about when you built the bridge? I smile. I've told this story 100 times. The first major project I ever led. A bridge over a river, connecting 2 towns. The challenges, the problems, the satisfaction of seeing it completed. Well, I begin, sitting down on the grass with both grandkids clustering around me. The first thing you need to know about building a bridge is that you have to understand what you're building on. The foundation has to be solid, or the whole thing will collapse. As I tell the story, I realize it's not just about construction. It's about everything. Relationships, trust, family. You can build something beautiful, but if the foundation is rotten, it will eventually fail. Michael built his life on lies, and it collapsed. I built the foundation on truth, and it's still standing. This story serves as a stark reminder that the greatest betrayals often come wrapped in the warmth of family love. It reveals how grief can be weaponized by those we trust most, turning our vulnerability into their opportunity. The ultimate lesson is not about revenge, but about reclamation. It teaches that dignity, once stolen, can be recovered through the methodical pursuit of truth and justice. Victory is not won through anger or hatred, but through the quiet, determined transformation of pain into purpose. True justice means taking what was meant to destroy you and using it to protect others from the same fate. The weight of betrayal never fully lifts, but it can be transformed into the foundation of something meaningful. A legacy that honors the good that was lost and prevents others from suffering the same wounds. Don't forget to like and subscribe if this story resonated with you. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, trust is sacred, but verification is essential. Protect yourself and those you love. Click the next video to continue the journey.